Welcome back, everyone. President Akufo-Addo is considering 3 persons to present the 2021 budget to Parliament next Friday. They are Vice President Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, Trade Minister Designate Alan Kyerematen, and Agric Minister Designate Dr. Osifri Akoto. Leader of the Majority Caucus in Parliament, Osei Mensah Bonsu, disclosed this to our parliamentary correspondent, Kwesi Parker-Wilson. This follows the inability of the Finance Minister Designate Ken Ofori-Atta to return on time from his 2-week medical leave in the United States. Joy Business is learning that under the Public Financial Management Act, the budget is always presented on behalf of the President to Parliament. We are billed to speak with our parliamentary correspondent, Kwesi Parker-Wilson, to find out what more the Majority Leader has been telling him. When we establish contact with him, we will speak with him. But joining us is economist Professor Eric Osei-Sibe with some more perspective on this. So great to have you, sir, on our program tonight. So 3 names that have come up: the Vice President Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, the Agric Minister Designate, as well as the Trade Minister Designate Alan Kyerematen. I'm not too sure if this has ever happened in our history where the Finance Minister is unavailable to present the budget. But does it matter who does the presentation?
Well, I'm also not too sure whether it has ever happened in this country where the finance minister will not be available to present the budget. But it is not against the Constitution, the 1992 Constitution, in any way, because if you look at the Article 179 of the Constitution, under the authorization of expenditure, it states clearly, and I read from the Constitution, that the President shall cause to be prepared and laid before Parliament at least 1 month before the end of the financial year estimates of revenue and expenditure of the government of Ghana for the following financial year. And so it's definitely not out of place. It's within the President's mandate to cause any of his lieutenants to present the budget on his behalf. And so whether the finance minister is available or not, the president can still go ahead to do that. And so it is very much consistent with the Constitution. As to who does that, whether it's going to be the vice president or trade minister or the agric minister, I don't think it matters at all. I mean, once the president has mandated a person, one would have wished that the budget would be driven by the finance minister, because obviously it is his vision and the president's vision that will drive the economic governance of the country. But that said, it's definitely it's consistent with the Constitution as to who the president acts to make a budget presentation. It doesn't have to be the minister. The Constitution did not specifically say that it has to be the Minister of Finance. And so I think it's within the president's mandate to do that. Okay,
and so what is most important, I guess, is the content of that budget, not who presents the budget. And
absolutely.
So
absolutely.
What would you want to hear on that day, seeing the year that has gone past us and the struggles we've had?
Well, I think what I want to hear will be program clear strategy for recovery and for consolidation of the gains that have been made. So largely on the recovery, because as you know, growth has slowed considerably. We've had underperforming revenue and then expenditure going ahead of the target, fiscal deficits are running over the statutory targets. And so largely it should be about measures to ensure recovery. We all know that the road to recovery can be long and also bumpy. And so we need a very clear strategy as to how are we going to drive economic growth? How are we going to ensure that we raise enough revenue to finance increasing expenditure, particularly on the social side, health sector expenditures, education expenditure, social protection expenditure. and all of that. We have to be clear because we don't have enough fiscal room for government to continue to borrow, given the fact that there's the debt level is mounting. There's not enough fiscal room for much more borrowing. And so we have to look more within to be able to raise the needed revenue to finance government activity. And the activity should be geared towards growth enhancing areas of the economy so that we can accelerate the growth process to catch up with the pre-COVID period.
And while I have the opportunity, I'm going to ask you this. This week has been a lot of talk about the COVID-19 vaccination. We started the rollout of our vaccination campaign yesterday. The president took his jab on Monday. And there's talk about quick economic recovery as vaccinations begin. And so there are some who are saying that much of that recovery would depend on how quickly we are able to vaccinate the eligible population. What's your take on that?
Yeah, precisely. It definitely is going to play a role because it's going to kind of engender confidence in the investor section. Consumer confidence will be picked up. And then FDI would also have the confidence to come in. And those are the things that will going to quicken economic growth. But given the fact that there's huge output gap, given the fact that there's huge investment gap, and even consumption has still not recovered, obviously we will recover, but we're not going to go to the pre-COVID era that soon. It will take a bit of time. But that said, it's still a very good signal with the COVID rollout. It engenders confidence in the economy, and then investors' uncertainty would also be assuaded, and that could really unleash some kind of investments into the economy. But I'm not sure the impact will be felt that soon. It will take a little bit of time because of the level at which the downfall the economy fall to. We definitely would have to take a bit of time to recover fully. But that is a very good sign for the investor community and for consumers and even for government borrowing. As government is about to go to international capital market to borrow, obviously the market will be looking at the systemic risk in the economy and ability for the economy to recover. And the rollout of the vaccine is definitely a good signal. It's a good indicator of how soon a country can recover. So it definitely will inure to our benefits in that regard.
Prof. Eric Osei-Sibe, thank you so much for your thoughts tonight on the program. Wish you a good rest of the day.
Thank you for having me.
All right, so we can connect with parliamentary correspondent Kwesi Parker-Wilson for the latest. He's been in Parliament the whole day. He's spoken with the leader of the Majority Caucus on what's going to be happening next Friday. And so what's he been telling you, Parker? Hello, Parker, if you could unmute. Can you hear me?
No. So
yeah.
What's happening is that next week, Tuesday, President of the Republic of Ghana, Nana Addo Akufo-Addo, will be in Parliament to address us on the state of the nation. Now, the following Friday, that is 3 days on, next week Friday, in fact, there will be budget presentation. Now, I struggled. I nearly mentioned that the finance minister will do that. But Daryl, as you know, the finance minister is out of the jurisdiction. And then we are told by the majority leader that the vice president or the trade and industry minister designate, Alan Chemantin, may be the one to do the budget presentation. Now, this is because the minister responsible for finance is not in the country. So that has been the proposal around the table. And mind you, the majority leader himself is the leader of government business here in Parliament. And so for him to say this, it means that the vice president, being the head of the economic management team, is likely to do the budget presentation for us come next week, Friday. Now, again, we are told that the committees, including the Trade and Industry Committee and all the other select committees, will be constituted by close of this week, Friday, so that at least when they present the budget, the select committees will have the opportunities to peruse the document so that they can equally make their recommendation and approval in subsequent days.
Okay, so Parker, you're saying that it's more likely the vice president will make the presentation instead of the trade minister designate or agric minister designate. That's what you're hearing?
That's the comment or the information we are receiving from the majority leader of Chairman Saboso, who is also the leader of government business here in Parliament.
Okay, anything you're hearing about how the finance minister designate is faring from the MPs?
No, we've not picked up any information yet about his health status. What we know is that on the day he traveled to the States, there were speculations about him being severely ill. We later saw some pictures on social media indicating that he was well and he was in the company of the spouse. That is all we know for now. But if he's able to return within the week, then possibly he will be the one to handle the budget presentation. But if not, then the vice president will be in the position to do that.
And of course, he also has to face the appointments committee once he returns.
That's correct. And so in the view or in the wisdom of the appointment committee, the finance minister has been scheduled to be the last nominee to be vetted. Already some ministers have been vetted, including the regional ministers as well. And so because of his health situation, they decided to push him to the last minute or the final day of the appointment committee. So until he returns, he will be the last nominee to appear before the vetting committee to be vetted.
Great. Thank you so much, Kwesi Parker Wilson, our parliamentary correspondent, bringing us up to speed. Let's turn to other news now. Importers and Exporters Association of Ghana is raising red flags over attempts by some shipping lines to introduce additional port charges, although the Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority had since last year notified shipping lines of new tariff for services rendered to them at the seaports. Now, according to Executive Secretary of the Association, Samson Asaki Awingobit, the new tariff was not meant to be transferred to the business community. Kwame Anka has more in the following report.
According to Importers and Exporters Association of Ghana, it is quite absurd for shipping lines to pass on the cost being introduced by Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority. GPHA had postponed introduction of the new charges from September last year to March this year. There was the assurance that the 20% increment will not be passed on to importers. However, some shipping lines have already notified their clients of the increment in charges, ranging from $77 to $120. Samson Asaki Awingobit is Executive Secretary of the association.
Because we had a previous 2020 meeting, which they were supposed to implement it in September, I have had report from some of the clearing agents saying that at that time, after that meeting, some shipping lines had sent messages to importers, informing them they were going to introduce a new charge in September. Meaning, if GPHA had implemented their new the 20% port dues that they are now to implement in 2021 March, these people now were going to charge. So I put it to the DG. The DG said they were going to investigate it. So we agree in that meeting that, okay, if the shipping lines will not, that will absorb it, we have no problem.
Meanwhile, Asaki Awingobit is asking Ghana Maritime Authority to regulate the shipping industry.
I strongly believe that the only institution that we see now that I can boast and to tell that if there's any challenge that we have to move in, to say they are the proper institution that can regulate the shipping industry, and we can go there to head for arbitration, should be the Ghana Maritime Authority. Because under the Ghana Maritime Authority, there's a Shipping Act 630 or so, where they can regulate the shipping industry. But you see, I don't know what happened in the Shippers Authority and Ghana Maritime Authority some years back. We having some scams as if, because through the shipping lines themselves, point to Ghana Shippers Authority to tell them that what work are they rendering to them, they wanted to pay certain charges to them. And so most of the authority is coming from Ghana Maritime Authority.
The association says It will continue to push until shipping lines in the country do the right thing.
Now, as part of measures to sustain competitive and responsible enterprises, the International Labour Organization has commenced a training program for some trade associations in the country. The program is part of the ILO's contribution to enhancing the capacity of the informal sector. Here's more in this report.
The Sustaining Competitive and Responsible Enterprises project by the International Labour Organization is aimed at upscaling the informal sector to meet the new trend of business globally. The project seeks to open up opportunity to self-employed and skilled youth in the country in a bid to reduce the unemployment rate. The training for the Federation of Professional Trade Associations is part of support to ensure that the project succeeds. National Project Coordinator Samuel Onoma Esiedu is hopeful that the expectation of the program will be met.
At what the consumer needs. And you are also operating within a framework of some international regulations. And finally, you also have a goal. So when it comes to quality assurance, you are putting in place a system that ensures that from planning through production to the point where the consumer takes your product, there is this set of practices that ensure that you are delivering based on the expectations of the client, based on the expectations of regulatory framework, and based on the goal of the enterprise.
President of the Ghana Hairdressers and Beauticians Association, Tina Ofa-Yerenchi, expressed confidence that the program will go a long way to help the sector improve upon its work.
We are so grateful that ILO is able to come into our aid and have developed this training content for us. We are expecting that after the whole show, we will leave here being very well vested in whatever training that they are giving to us, so that at the end of the day, we will also have the strength in leadership to develop our people and to make them dependent. At the end of the day, sustenance is our goal, and that is what we are expecting of.
The Management, Development and Productivity Institute is expected to take over the program as a partner.
You're watching Business Live. The smock is the most distinctive dress from northern Ghana. The smock, as we have them today, have seen many evolutions and adaptations. It's evolved from royal wear on communal occasions to casual and official wear to suit many situations in life. Now, as we celebrate Ghana Month here on JoyNews, the Joy Business Van brings you the story of entrepreneur Aisha Oduali, who is making smockwear trendy. Here's her story.
The Joy Business Van, empowered by Joy Business and supported by EcoBank, the Pan-African Bank.
Aisha Oduali grew up in Bolgatanga in the Upper East region, where smocks are very common. The traditional attire made from handloom strips is very popular in the 3 northern regions of Ghana, worn during special occasions. Charliewood began for Aisha in 2015 after national service in Accra.
I was thinking of whether to go back to school or what was I going to do after national service. So I started selling the traditional smokes. I did my service at Rosen Highway. So some of the directors could ask me, Aisha, when you go to the north, I want you to get me a smoke. So I was like, okay, then I think that's a business to start. So I started bringing the smokes. I go to Bolga and make them, the traditional ones. And then I bring and sell it to some of the directors and then some of the people at the ministry.
If you've worn a smock before, then you'd have realized it is quite heavy, and some people Aisha sold to would complain. That sparked the creativity in her.
I used to get people say, oh, I like these things, but they're too heavy. So I sat down one day and I was like, okay, so what can I do to make it lighter, easier to wear, and then easy to handle? So I started making skirts, and I made one for myself first. So when I wore it, I went to the ministry to sell. And then somebody asked me, like, oh, what's this made from? And I'm like, it's made from butter. Really? Can you make this skirt? I'm like, yes. So that's how it actually started. So I started making skirts. Then along the line, I decided to make stuffs for the men as well. So that's how it all started, because I wanted to make it simpler, easy to handle, easy to wear, and make more people get attracted to what is actually coming from the north. most of the time I sit down and think about, that's when they say creative director. You have to sit down and think about what you want to do differently from what you have already done. So sometimes I just try and draw them myself. And then some of the women I work with, they also help me out with some of the designs. They draw them and show them to me. What do you think? Is it possible? Because our fabric is quite different from the African print. It's heavier to work with and very difficult to work with. So sometimes they draw the designs and they're like, Aisha, do you think the Batakari can do this? So it takes a process. We have to look at the design first, considering our machine, our fabric. So that's what goes into it.
Getting the smokes, though, is not an easy task.
I actually work with some of the artisans from Yerungu. It's a town in between Burkina and Bogatanga. So most of the artisans are there. I remember the first time I was going to see them myself. You know, when I got there, I was like, I don't think I'm going to do this anymore. But I'm like, okay, if I don't do this anymore, how am I going to promote my stuffs? So getting there, it's a very rough road. And most of the people don't speak English. So if you can't speak Fafra or French, you can easily communicate with them. So I remember the first time, you know, from the road through Boga was smooth. I was excited. I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm going to see Yorumongo for the first time. You know, but after Bongo, you know, the road got very rough. The roads were really bad. So one of the challenges is with the people I work with, even the road to where they work. It's actually one of the problems for even our business. Because sometimes you can do stuff, but they're not on time, because getting them from Yerungu to Boga, before you bring it from Boga to Accra, it will take a very long while.
But Aisha makes the trip frequently anyway. Her trendy smock designs have caught on, earning Charliewood a place on the Ghana Startup Club 100.
I actually didn't know how, but you know, they opened up the platform for people to nominate businesses. So I didn't know whether somebody saw what I was doing and appreciated me and nominated me. I was just on my phone and then I saw that somebody had tagged me on Facebook. And then when I checked, it was the Premium Startup Awards, and I saw Charliewood there with other businesses I've been admiring all these years. So I was like, okay, so I've been nominated with all these people. It means, you know, like I'm really doing well, and I can do better as well.
But even more gratifying for Aisha is the fact that she's making the smoke attire more popular and creating jobs for many in the north.
The reason why I actually started Charliewood was to make people appreciate what was coming from the north. And I've always loved made in Ghana goods. I remember when I used to be in secondary school, my slippers were made from Boga. You know, I make them into sandals and then take them to school. I was so different. So I think my love for made in Ghana goods, and then to just let people appreciate where I'm coming from and the things we have in the north. That's why I started Charliewood.
Great stuff. Before we go, local apparel manufacturers who are into the production of masks say their businesses have taken a nosedive following the influx of imported masks. Now, according to them, they've lost out big time during this period of the pandemic. Now, as part of our Ghana Month series, Joy Business engaged the president of the association, George Kando. He says the government must, as a matter of urgency, intervene to save the apparel industry from collapse.
Almost a year since Ghana recorded its first case of the coronavirus pandemic. Now, the use of nose masks became a necessary tool to fight this particular pandemic. Due to the scarce nose masks and the closure of borders around the world, local manufacturers were called into action to produce local masks. But a year on, we are here at the Nalam Clothing to find out how the production of nose masks has gone. And local manufacturers were called into action to actually produce local nose masks. How has the business been like?
Yeah, it's a mix of everything. I just can imagine if we weren't in the manufacturing side of the apparel value chain, what we have been doing. So on one side, we've been lucky to get work from government, but on the other side, it is not enough to keep our machines going all year round. So just as much as we are thankful to government for the opportunity to keep us busy, you still can see a lot of machines are still empty. So what it means is we would need more work. Okay, having said so, as of now, the most work we do is when we produce PPEs for governments. Aside that, generally the clothing consumption of Ghanaians, so to say, has gone down. I can't remember the last time you bought yourself an outfit, you know. So typically, the weddings are gone, the outdoorings are gone, the funerals. So all this go with very limited numbers, and people are not motivated to make new clothes.
Well, one thing is for sure, we have to encourage the local industry. That's Business Live tonight. Thanks for watching. My name is Darryl Kwa. We're back same time tomorrow, but you can always catch up on our website, myjoyonline.com/business.
On Money Lab today, we want to learn about claims under insurance. Remember, we began the journey of knowing what exactly insurance is in simple terms. We talked about the two different types of insurance, and then we talked about the things you must know and get before you sign on to an insurance. And one of the critical things we studied was insurance policy. After insurance policy, we talked about insurance premium. When we say an insurance claim, it is basically the same as the word means. You are making a claim, you are making a withdrawal. So the understanding is that the incident for which you took that policy has kicked in, and you want to make a claim on the financial benefit of that loss or that unfortunate incident. Now, you must always know that when you are making a claim, your claim is equal to what your premium covered. And so many people get disappointed when they make a claim and what they receive is not equivalent to what they expected. So the next time you sign onto an insurance, check again what your claim covers.